I think whether or not we're conscious of this, right? Most of us are seeking permission from others to love ourselves. Most of us are seeking permission from other people to validate ourselves, right? For the majority of us, right? The only time that we feel good about ourselves physically and how we look is if we put on some nice clothes, we get a new haircut, we get a new hairstyle for the ladies watching this, and we go out into the world and someone just happens to compliment us. The only time we feel good about our intellect and how we think and our minds and how smart we are is if we happen to say something smart, right? And someone validates how we think and how we see the world. And so we're always relying on someone else to make ourselves feel good, to love ourselves. Their validation sort of becomes like a drug, and we become an addict. We're always chasing after it to feel good. And the only times that we do feel good is when we do get it, is when we do get that fix of validation. And so we live our lives always trying to find someone or something to make ourselves feel good. And in doing that, that's the way in which we try to love ourselves. The older I get, the more I realize the importance of becoming your own source, right? The importance of becoming your own source of self-love. Because when you become your own source, no one has the power to make you feel good, right? And on that same token, no one has the power to make you feel bad about yourself. When you are your own source, you become your own source of validation, right? You decide when you feel good about yourself. Your happiness, your fulfillment, your sense of self-worth is dependent on you. You become sort of like the light that shines light upon yourself, right? You become the sun of your life. You're the only person that can fill your cup. And when you fill your cup, you can also drink from it, right? When you become your own source, you no longer become the puppet to the words and to the actions of other people. And I think most of us are merely puppets, right? Puppets to the words and the actions of others. They know when to make us feel good, right? And on that same token, they also know how to make us feel bad. And I don't want to get off topic, but this is why I believe something such as love bombing is such a powerful thing, right? Because someone can come into your life and people are like foxes, right? They can look at you and they can tell your level of self-love and how much your cup is filled. And so they will come into your life and they will literally become the source of your validation. They will start off heavy with the compliments, complimenting you about your looks, complimenting you about your intellect and so on and so forth. And so you become sort of attached to their validation, right? You're always seeking it. And the moment you don't get it, the moment you begin to question yourself, right? And when someone realizes that they become your source of self-love and your source of validation, right? What they'll begin to do is they'll begin to slowly remove that validation, right? They begin to slowly pull back on the compliments, pull back on the validation, right? And then the more they pull back, the more you begin to chase after it. So they sort of become like the puppet master, right? And you become the puppet and they just have you on the strings. They know when to pull you in, and they know when to push you away. They know when to make you feel good and they know when to make you feel bad. So your sense of self-worth is always dependent on someone else, right? And once your sense of self-worth and your self-love is dependent on someone else, then you don't know what true freedom is. True freedom is becoming your own source. True freedom comes when you're the only person that can fill your cup. And in filling your cup, you can also drink from it. You become like the sun. But when you're always dependent on someone else, you're sort of in this prison, this mental prison. Right? You're imprisoned. You're not free. You don't know what true freedom is. And another thing that I realize about us, right, which I find very ironic, a lot of us are trying to be loved and trying to find love from people who don't even love themselves. Right? You know, majority of people in this world, they don't love themselves. We don't love ourselves, right? We walk around with this empty space within us. This empty space that is devoid of self-love. And so we recognize that this space is empty, and we try to fill it with someone else. And the ironic thing about this is that the person that you're trying to fill this space with doesn't even have love within them for themselves, right? They're also devoid of self-love. And so essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to drink from an empty cup. You're trying to get something from someone that doesn't even have that thing for themselves, right? And that's hilarious. Right? That's ironic. And so when you realize that you can only be, right? You begin to realize that only you can be your source of self-love. You realize that the only stable source of validation and self-love that you will ever come close to getting is from yourself. You're the only person that can fill your cup. And so, I believe that one of the most important things we can do in this life, or the most important thing we can do in this life, is to give ourselves just a little bit of love every day. You know, when we wake up in the mornings, instead of trying to find someone to tell you that you're good enough, you tell yourself that you're good enough. Instead of relying on someone to compliment you about how you look and how you think, you compliment your own self. You fill your own cup, even if it's just a little bit every single day. And once you begin to fill your own cup, you begin to realize how freeing that is. How free you become mentally, spiritually, physically. You're free. You're free to move through the world without seeking someone else to cling on to. You know what it means to live from your soul and through your soul. You embody something that goes beyond just the physical. You get in touch with a presence that is so deep and impermanent within you that no one can take it away from you. So self-love is really the answer to all things. Right? The more self-love you have, the more you're able to live life with a sense of freedom, with a sense of fulfillment. The more you're able to see the bigger picture of life. And the more you're able to see life for what it is, and to experience life in such a way that you see the beauty in life. But when you're always clinging on to someone else and trying to find fulfillment and self-love through someone else, once you're always waiting for someone to give you permission to love yourself, then you're trying to get it from an unstable source. And once you give someone the power to make you feel good about yourself, once they become your source of pleasure, fulfillment, happiness, they also become your source of pain. So I say all this to say, you have to learn to become your own source. You have to learn to love yourself without seeking validation from other people and from external sources, right? You fill your own cup. And once you fill your own cup, that is when you truly find freedom in this life. That's when you become free. Free to be your most authentic self. Alright? So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for even clicking this video. And I really hope you take the time to give yourself just a little bit of love every day. To validate your own self, to become your own source. And once you do that, like I said, that's when you truly find freedom. Peace and blessings.